So when it comes to depth, how deep you want to plant your tree, there's two things to take note of, and I'll pull this tree out to show you. So this is a potted tree, so it's a little bit different. But right, there's the graft point, and the graft point is on, you'll see it looking up the rootstock. This is the rootstock here. And the graft point, you'll usually see like a cutting where they've grafted a variety of a tree onto it. And it'll sometimes healed quite disguised. This one's not so disguised. So you have to keep an eye out for that. That you definitely want above the surface level, because if you put that anywhere, around the soil level, you'll run into problems with your fruit tree in the future. And also, this is the variety. The reason we do a graft is because this is the variety that you've bought, you want to get the fruit from, because it's got certain characteristics. The second thing to look out for is the root flare of the tree, and this is lower down, usually actually beneath where the pots put the compost. The people from the nursery put the compost in the pots, and you might need to ruffle it back a little bit. And we're looking for basically where the tree just starts to send out its roots, which is actually there, you'll see. That's like the root flare, the start of the rooting of the tree. That is the level we want to plant it at. We want that at the soil level. Soil's quite nice in here. This soil is very good quality. I did bring down some compost in case, some organic compost, because sometimes when the soil is very heavy clay and you're not working with nice soil like this, it's a good idea to mix a bit of compost into the hole with the tree, just a little bit to help it grow its roots and get established. So when you dig your hole, you want to find the root flare and sit it in the hole to see if it is the right height, and know that that is the height we're going for. So if you dug it a little bit deep, it's fine, just put a bit of loose soil back in the hole, and if you're not dug deep enough, then put some back in. You might be thinking as well, what is the problem with planting it too deep? Like, why am I so adamant about planting it at this level? Well, if you plant it deep, say there, and the root flare is down there, there is a chance that down the line, maybe a decade down the line, your tree might just start to show negative signs of basically rotting at the base of the tree, which could shorten its overall life and maybe affect the fruiting of the tree as well. And it's interesting, you'll see this when you look to all the trees in nature. When a tree is grown by seed, as it's meant to be grown, you'll see, you walk around the forest, a lot of the roots are usually exposed at the root flare of the tree. You'll see a big tree and then roots going around down into soil on the outside, away from the trunk. It never really looks like a telephone pole just stuck straight to the ground. They're usually a sign of the roots. So that's what we're going for with this fruit tree when we're planting it, to give it the best chance of success in the long run as well. Also, if you're planting from a potted tree like this, and it's been in a little bit too long and you don't like the look of the roots, you can just ruffle. It's a good idea actually to ruffle the roots like this, just to free any tangling up and give it a little bit of loose roots to grow out into the new soil around. I always opt for bare roots when I'm buying trees, but obviously when there are trees that are evergreen, like all the citrus and cherimoya in this case, they are always grown in pots because they're not deciduous, they don't drop the leaves, so you can't buy them bare root. And if you're not going to grow from seed, which I will be growing more cherimoya from seed and maybe plant close by to maybe even cut some down if you choose a seeded variety. But sometimes you just have to buy potted trees. And if you are, and you see the roots are very tangled and messy, you might have to do some work to just free it up, maybe even cut some tight strangleholds that are happening in the roots, just so it looks a bit more loose, ready to grow. So once we've got it a reasonable height, I'll put some soil back in. So I'm just going to put a bit extra in the hole because it's not quite low enough. Like I said before, you can see, look at this. This is just the native soil I've got to work with here. See, it's nice loose black soil. If that was very heavy clay, I would be looking to add in a bit of compost in the barrow first, mix it together, get some nice loose soil, just to put in the surrounding hole of this tree to help it give it a good head start for the first year or two of growth. Well, the real solution is just to focus on improving the fertility of your soil in general with all the things I teach in this channel, basically keeping the ground healthy as a priority. to just create soil like this in the first place. When it comes to trees just in general, you are never really going to get a perfectly healthy root structure of a tree, a bought tree, you know, from a nursery, because it is unnatural. We're growing trees in a pot or transplanting when they're a year or two old, and that root structure should have been happening in its final position. So if you're buying from a pot like this, there might be a little bit more care needed to begin with. You might need to water it for the first couple of years just to help it get established, which wouldn't be the case if you were to direct sow in this position or grow in, say, an air-free bed, which I showed in a different video, because that's how you get a healthy root structure on a fruit tree, and you get it out into its final position whilst it's young. But yeah, in this case we've got a potted tree. Do what we can to make the roots better, and I'll show you how to plant it now. So you might be wondering as well, what actually is a cherimoya, because a lot of people are not familiar with cherimoya trees. Cherimoya are very similar to custard apples, and custard apples also some people are not that familiar with, but they're like a white tropical looking fruit, very sweet flesh and black seeds in, where you just spit the seeds out as you eat. Cherimoyas have a much more flesh to seed ratio, and especially this variety, which is Fino de Jet. I know it's a very good sweet bigger variety of cherimoya here, and it's very well liked in South Spain. Now we are just basically just making sure it's straight in its position with a little bit of soil at the bottom before I fill in the rest of the hole. So we've got the depth. This is where you do a bit of the artwork like this. It's straight. Do consider how the tree is going to shape up in the future. If you've got a tree like this, it's already starting to form its branches. They could well be the main branches of that tree in the future. So if you're choosing to face them that direction, be aware of it. If you've got a pathway going through there, you want to make sure it's directing it, facing the branches where you want them. I mean, it will grow new branches, but it's just good to look at your tree before you plant it. Give you an idea. Put the soil back in. This is quite a nice spot for a cherimoya tree. I mean, it's a good spot for trees in general, but it's a nice south-facing spot, which is something to consider when you're planning out your area, your land that you're going to plant up with trees. The further you go down the valley, the colder the winters are, and the less hot they are in the summer as well. So I know if I was to plant this a couple of tiers further down, in the winter period, there's actually a risk of this getting too cold and dying. And that's obviously just for the trees that are more subtropical. I'm talking about like cherimoyas, mangoes, avocados. When you're growing things like apples, pears, peaches, cherries, you can plant them further down the valley. Well, I can plant them further down the valley and not have a problem with them struggling in the winter because they just go dormant and lose the leaves. Usually the subtropical ones in this region are the evergreen trees. So that's how you can sort of distinguish between them if you're not sure. Saying that, mulberries are quite an interesting one. Mulberries are evergreen in certain climates. They're also deciduous in other climates. So that's a bit of a funny one. I don't know if you knew that, Jack, not did you?
I was just thinking, how cold does it need to get to kill something like a mango tree or one of these subtropicals?
Well,
do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, it's basically if it's spending prolonged periods below like 3 degrees, then you're going to have trouble growing it. So you want it to have above freeze.
Trouble growing what?
Yeah, the subtropical trees like mangoes, avocados, cherimoyas. If you are growing in an area in the winter where it drops, like below 3 degrees for extended periods, or even just has one freeze, you're not going to be able to grow them. So you need to have a place where it doesn't freeze. And if you are in a place where it does freeze infrequently, you still can protect that tree by planting it in quite an enclosed spot. So choosing to plant bushes or trees around it, just to create a little bit of a microclimate to keep it from freezing in the winter. And you'll notice this as well when you're looking at land after it's frosted in the morning. The open lands are the places that freeze. The forest floor doesn't freeze. That's because it's covered by all the trees, it's protected, it's like insulated by the canopy. So if you're choosing a big open ground and planting one mango tree in the middle, it's much more susceptible to frost and potentially might struggle in the winter. Just want to gently press it in.
It sounds counterproductive that, because higher up is colder usually.
Well, there is a sweet spot. We are 350 metres above sea level here. If you start to go a lot higher, where I know the local town, one of the local towns around here is at 700 metres. They can't even grow citrus because in the winter it goes a lot colder. And their summers also are much hotter, so you get much more extremes. But the obvious caveat to that is if you're at the coast, because at the coast it is milder year round anyway, and that is 0 metres above sea level. Quite good, give it a little bit more. That's a good level. Once we're at this stage now, this is where you want to think about mulching. I've actually got some, these are olive tree cuttings. We had a storm pass through here last winter, and one of the big branches blew down. So I've got a lot of chopped up twigs. This is obviously not going to be sufficient to retain the moisture. This is just a first thing to almost to fertilise the tree as these twigs break down. Now I would look for some cover, some mulch. So in this case I'm going to rake away some of this living cover from around and just sit it on top of them twigs there. Also you can get hay, straw, leaf mulch, anything you've got access to. Get a nice thick layer on the ground around the tree. The thicker you go, the less you're going to have to water, and the more protection is going to be on the soil. Free mulch. Get a nice layer of that just to begin with, and I will come back through and put even more leaf mulch or hay or straw when I get access to some more.